What's going on, guys? Ben with liftedimports.com. I haven't been on for a while. I've been working a bunch. I've been swapping some engines, doing a bunch of different projects. Absolutely slammed. Started an additional job on top of my regular full-time job. Got some stuff coming in the future, don't worry. But I wanted to stop in. You know, it's New Year's Day right now, and there's some news kind of floating around the Subaru industry that I wish wasn't a thing, and I wish this wasn't something that people are dealing with. But there's a big name in the industry. For years, under the previous ownership, we would have had no problem trusting this brand. But from my understanding, they were recently purchased by a new party. This company, they got into the lifted Subaru market, and I was never a fan of the products that they were creating for lifted Subarus. Flat aluminum lift kits, that type of thing. I don't like that at all. But that's aside the point. What's happened with this company, I'm not gonna name who it is, most of you guys already know. They just have not been shipping orders. They've been receiving payment and not delivering on orders. And what I wanna say first and foremost is I typically sympathize with business owners. Business owners are super important. Their job is very hard, but when you're in a situation where people are waiting 3, 6, 12 months for things that they've already paid for and they haven't had it delivered to them, you haven't made good on your, on your promise by receiving payment to deliver those goods. When that happens, you need to be upfront and explain to people, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, we had a problem with a supplier, or we're going through, there's something really crazy going on in our lives personally. We're gonna refund your money and make things right, and we're gonna pick back up as soon as we can. Instead, what happened with this company is they just started mocking people online that were like, yo, I've been waiting 6 months, where's my stuff? They just had no answer for these people. So that's a whole other story in and of itself. But what I want to talk about today is if you're new to the Subaru off-road thing, and this is, kind of a new avenue for you, what this had me thinking about was you can find brands that are relatively well-known. This was a big, and I say was because I don't see them bouncing back from this ever. I think law enforcement's involved now. I'm curious to see kind of what's going to happen with this. But if such a big name brand like this was willing to, I guess, jeopardize their reputation. Now, again, they didn't build this reputation. From what I understand, this was a relatively recently acquired company. Someone else bought it, and this was kind of a newer thing. But if they're willing to take such a big name and kind of tarnish it and literally just throw it in the trash, what do you think is going to happen if you have a problem with some small no-name company that's literally just ripping off part designs from industry giants that did the original R&D? What do you think is going to happen with a Chinese-based supplier that they're sleeping while you're awake and you're awake while they're sleeping? They don't have really, you don't have really any recourse if something goes wrong with some of these different companies. Let's say you buy like a cheap lift kit off, eBay or some other place like that. If they don't want to honor, some sort of an agreement that you have with them, or you have a problem with their parts, there really is nothing you can do to get good support. Sometimes these people don't even really speak the same language, which makes it super difficult. So what I wanted to share today was just, I think now more than ever, going into 2025, it's more important to find companies that you trust. Listen to word of mouth. Listen to people that you feel have a good handle on who is and isn't doing good business practices in this space. I just spent a weekend out at Anderson Design and Fabrication with Patrick and Mitch Meadows from Melee Design Firm. Both of those dudes have literally taken everything that they have and dumped it into their businesses. Patrick Anderson's the owner of ADF. Like I said, Mitch Meadows is the owner of Melee Design Firm. They make like battery mount systems. I actually use them in all 3 of my cars. But both of those dudes, they put everything on the line to build these companies. And there's a couple things that I think are really admirable about just kind of, being around those dudes and seeing how they do things, they don't outsource their stuff to like China, for example. They're not ordering steel straight from China. They're not ordering, aluminum straight from China. They're dealing with local suppliers. They're using some of the best parts. And both of these dudes are literally putting hours of time into the designing of these different product offerings. And that brings me to another point that I want to mention. If you're newer in this and you're thinking about buying a lift kit, or you're thinking about buying some other parts for these cars, if there is a cheap option that's a knockoff, you might think, oh, well, this is easier for me to afford. It's going to be just as good. And in some cases, hey, it might be. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a gamble. But let me put it to you this way. That works right now. You might save $150 right now by buying a knockoff of somebody else's design. But in the long run, that's not sustainable. If everybody went out and bought knockoffs, well, those knockoff companies, they would make some money on those products. But then the other guys that are putting in all the R&D time to be the original people that design these products, they're going to stop doing this. If they're like bringing a new product to market, getting undercut immediately and not really selling anything to, benefit all the hard work and risk that they've just taken on, they're not going to do this long term. And then what? Like, to me, it doesn't make sense that we would be willing to, just say, hey, thanks for all the hard work, but I'm going to go buy this stuff from some company in Singapore that doesn't even care about Subarus. They literally just took your part, copied it, made it with cheaper steel and cheap labor, shipped it over to me. And if there's a problem, they're not going to take care of me, but whatever. I just want to put it to you that way and just give you something to think about there. And then the other thing is not just Mitch and not just Pat, but like a lot of people in the industry, a lot of these smaller companies like Orbis Overlanding, the guys over at Primitive Racing, the dudes over at Nameless Performance, all these people, they genuinely care about their companies. They genuinely care about their customers. If you have a problem with their products, you're going to have a way better time getting support. Now, sometimes things are user error, but I mean, there's situations where a part's going to show up and, hey, somebody might have accidentally mixed up your part and put the wrong thing in your box and shipped it to you. That kind of stuff happens. But if you can't get a hold of the seller, how are you going to troubleshoot that? How are you going to figure that out? You're going to be like, what the heck do I do now? Especially if you are new to this stuff. So as we go into 2025, I know things are tough. I know times are hard. Everything's expensive. But I just want to encourage you to build relationships with a lot of these legitimate brands that are out here doing good business practices, doing R&D, creating good products for us. This is such a niche community that I really appreciate all of these companies that are willing to take a risk on us. There's not a lot of us when they could be out making parts for Jeeps or 4Runners and things like that has a huge following. In comparison, we're not even a tenth of what those guys are, like in terms of numbers. And so for a company to be willing to throw everything in and say, hey, let's make parts for these weirdos over here, running lifted Subarus, I appreciate the heck out of that. And I want to make sure that these companies are here for years to come and that we just support what they're doing. I hope that you guys are having a great 2025 since we just landed here, and hoping that this year brings prosperity for you. If you are not already subscribed, feel free to holler at us. Let me know what kind of stuff you'd like to hear about, talk about, different types of things that you want to cover. I am going to start doing some interviews with people here soon. If you know anybody that you think would be interesting to hear from, whether it's a Subaru owner, the owner of a business in the Subaru space, I'd love to pick their brain and hear from them. Drop that in the comments as well. Also, you're always welcome to head over to the liftedimports.com website. There is a lot of good information over there as well if you're just getting into the whole lifted Subaru thing. But till next time, I will see you guys out on the trail, and I hope you have a fantastic day.